Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from New York City, we have Guy Vaknin. Guy is a renowned chef famous for his innovative plant-based creations. He is the founder and owner of City Roots Hospitality, New York City's leading vegan restaurant group, which includes Beyond Sushi, Willow, and his latest vegan restaurant, Coletta. Welcome, Guy.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for being here on Plant Your Seed.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, I love all your restaurants and frequent them often when I'm in New York City. Can you share with us how and when you transitioned to a plant-based diet?
First of all, thank you for coming to our restaurants.
Of course.
Beyond Sushi and me have transitioned together to a plant-based diet. That's the story. So first of all, I started Beyond Sushi this day, 10 years ago. That's when the doors opened. It's my 10-year anniversary in 2012. And when Beyond Sushi opened, it was a vegetarian restaurant. It wasn't vegan. And 3 weeks into the business, I decided to convert it to vegan because the only thing that we had on the menu was egg products. And since I was the most ignorant person opening a vegetarian restaurant, not knowing anything about it, I had to learn very quickly from my customers and from the feedback I got that it's two different worlds. That's how ignorant I was about this world. But I learned really quick, and we transformed. And soon after, my whole lifestyle changed, and vision, and everything that came after it. Whether it's my family, my wife, my practices, everything that I do in my life revolved around this world. Because I realized that I was missing out on the best, or the best realistic view of the future. And I joined the party. And that's that.
So you transitioned when you changed your restaurant.
Yeah. So 6 months in, it wasn't a transition with the restaurant exactly. I took my time and of learning it. The transition of the restaurant came because it just made sense. And to this day, probably the best business decision I ever made, and the best personal decision that followed suit a few months later. It's a funny story because I really didn't know much about this world. Mm-hmm. And the community, just came back at me. And my whole vision to the business and to most things that I do in life is I listen. I don't cancel out what people think. And I really want to see what they have to say, or their comments, or their reviews, or their thoughts about what I do. Because that's, at the end of the day, where the business comes from. And there was this one guy, Andreas, his name, that really didn't let me go. And it's a funny story because we crossed paths over the years, and he was the one that was very persistent. And I gave it a shot. And because of him, I gave it a shot. And because of him, things changed and went in the direction that they went, and changed my life completely.
Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't met Andreas?
Andreas? I definitely do. And I appreciate him so much that every time I open a restaurant, I shoot him a text. And I make sure that he gets there. He was in Coletta 3 weeks ago, and of course I treat him and I host him because it's I give a lot of weight to the impact that, whether they know or not, that people have in my life. Mm-hmm. And I believe that every person that you cross paths with can contribute something to your experience and existence, or however you want to, the journey that you're going through. And in this case, it was like, so even though he didn't do much, he just like made me realize that that's what I need to do. Mm-hmm. Without knowing, he impacted so much about how my journey is going to be. I needed to be receptive too. That's the other part of it.
Right. And he also affected a lot of people in New York City.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a lot, a lot. I mean, that's one of the things that I've set as a goal for me after the transition of the restaurant and after getting into this world is to be able to basically feed as many people as I can, vegan meals for as long as I can. And over the course of the years, I would say 3 to 4 million people have came through our restaurants or ate our
Wow.
food, and it's a big deal for me. I'm not
Yeah.
bragging about it or anything. It's just something that I set as a goal for ourselves to reach as many people as possible. And I feel like that's the only way you can make a real, not a real, but you can make a bigger impact. Not a real, even a small impact is good, but a bigger impact is by reaching as many people as possible.
When you think back to that decision to go plant based with your restaurants, what sticks out in your mind?
The biggest thing that I had, or the thing that stuck in my mind the most, is I couldn't believe because I was so far away from this world. Right, I was in a regular cooking. I went to a regular culinary school. I grew up in a house where, or when I grew up in the '80s, being vegan had such bad outlook at it. Right,
Mm-hmm.
they're weak. They're malnutrition. They're not in all the stuff that comes with it.
Right.
And I would never in a million years think that I would be in this world and in this field and that this would be my lifestyle. Because I grew up in a village. I grew up in a kibbutz in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and sorry to say it, I've went through the process of processing animals and from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew what it meant. I never thought about it though. It never crossed my mind that it's something that is not okay, or it's something that you were born and raised into, and you get used to it, and you get numb to it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and going and educating myself and trying to look from a different perspective opened up a lot of things that I didn't think that I would touch at a later age in life. Right,
Mm-hmm.
you're used to something, and it also changed my habits, my lifestyle, the way I looked, the amount of weight I lost,
Hmm.
a lot of other things that came along with it. So I'm more at peace with myself having this lifestyle. I am not one to lecture or get mad at somebody that is not. I think that the way to get to people's hearts and visions and their thoughts is by showing them that it's possible at the highest level. That's what I'm trying to do.
Now, did you see any changes? Now, you mentioned that you lost weight.
Mhm.
What were some of the physical or mental changes that you noticed?
So in the beginning, I was very afraid that I'm going to lose energy. Not. I wasn't worried about the weight because I can eat like a whale with no bottom, and I knew that I'll be fine. I won't be hungry. I just eat. But I felt lighter. I felt like I had a lot more energy because nothing was weighing me down in the middle of the day. So where I come from, we eat bigger lunches and
Mm-hmm.
smaller dinners. So I was used to eating heavier lunches, and usually in the middle of the day, heavier lunches, animal-based protein weighs you down, and you have to get through this slump in the middle of the day that you need to, pass, and then you're like that was gone, was out of my system, and because I got lighter, because I felt better about what I was doing, everything became easier. It also motivated me to keep it up or get closer to being healthier and really understanding what I'm eating. That I'm getting all the nutritions that I need. Before it was just like, okay, we eat. That's what it is. We eat whatever. That was that.
I read where you moved to New York City to study computer engineering.
That's true.
What changed your mind, and what was it about cooking that attracted you to
uh,
it?
I I I started in computer engineering. It's not like I didn't give it a shot. I finished the army back home. I was out of the army. I was 21, and the idea was to come here and study. At the beginning, I wanted to do business, but then computer engineering was very intriguing for me,
Hmm.
and I made that change and tried to sit in class. And after doing 3 years in the army, in infantry, running around all day, sitting in class wasn't the thing that I needed to do. I felt in my stomach I needed to go and do something because I was too active.
Hmm.
And the one passion I always had was cooking. I grew up only with my mom. My father was here. He was in the restaurant business over here. I grew up with my mom, so I spent a lot of time with her in the kitchen and with my grandma in the kitchen. I always had a passion for food. Every memory I have from my childhood is somehow related to food, from the earliest one to any memory. It's always somehow connected to food. It was embedded in me, I guess. And when I figured out that sitting in class in college wasn't my thing, uh, and it wasn't my calling, and I didn't think that I could do it long term, I told my father that I have a dream that one day I can go to culinary school once I'm set and I have this great job and I'm making all this money. And he said, "Well, why don't you go now if you don't like it?"
Mm.
And I thought about it for a day or two, and then I told him, "Okay." And I went to school. I went to culinary school. My mom was mad. She thought that I'm just going to be a cook afterwards. My dad was happy because he's going to get a chef to for his catering company. Yeah, and that's that.
There's an idiom that behind every great man is a great woman. How do you feel women like your mother, your grandmother, your wife have affected your life?
I believe that women are are the stronger side
Hmm.
of our society. It's funny that you bring that up. I wasn't expecting it. My mom, God bless her, raised us, with almost nothing, and made it so me and my sister had a very happy and and thoughtful and invested every second that she had in us. Besides the two jobs that she worked, so we can get a good education. When she saved on her own stuff, she sent us to private tutoring and whatever she could spend, so we can get all the education that we can get. And I didn't grow up in a very easy town, very small town down in the south of Israel, suburb, right by Gaza Strip
Hmm.
over there. Forgotten town, it's called. So I, you know, I take my hat off for her that at 24 she had two kids and she was by herself and was able to do it. Especially now that I have three of my own.
Right.
And then, uh, and then women in general, I've always been around them because I grew up with my mom and my sister, and all my top management in my company right now is women. I think that they are tougher than they seem to be, and a lot of times it works out better for me.
No, I would agree. I was raised by my mom after my dad passed when I was 9, and I can tell you, I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah, I can't. If I try to put myself in my mom's shoes, right? Two
Right.
kids by myself, all the stress in the world, no money, trying to raise them the right way, doing all this work. Mothers are something else, you know.
Yeah.
They're special. They have extra powers. I don't know where from. Even my wife. Even my wife. Trust me. I don't know. I'm a very hardworking person. Okay, man. But my wife is the mom. She's everything for the kids, right? she would, without her, I'm a good dad, but I need their mom.
Yeah, she's the rock that holds the family together, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. She allows me. I mean, because of her, I'm able to do what I do now. Right? I'm not without her. I won't be able to have these kids and do what I do now. You know, I'll be by myself, just doing what I do now. She's what holds it together, like you said.
Did you struggle with anything when you first became plant-based, whether it was eating out with friends or your restaurant or anything?
No, everything that I missed, I basically created. Right, so I would create, and this is how I create my menus too. I only make what I want to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So everything that I miss, I created for myself over the years. Of course, it evolved, but I'm a very disciplined and habit forming person, right? So I'll be disciplined on certain things, and then it'll just become part of my routine, and that's it. You know, I can't I can't imagine doing anything else but that right now. You know, I can't. So there was nothing that I really missed. I Again, my energy levels went up. I made sure though that I was eating everything that I needed to eat back in the day. So today is a little bit different.
Now, how did that change your cooking style and becoming a chef in a traditional sense?
So everything for me back then was about when I first started was about purity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like if I'm gonna do plant based, I'm gonna do it all the way. There's no Even though sushi technically is considered in a lot of people's mind as involving fish,
Mm-hmm.
even the word does not mean that. It just means vinegared rice, right?
Right.
So I wanted to do everything pure back then. I wanted to get whole grains. I wanted to get only vegetables. I wanted to get nothing processed. I wanted to make all my sauces, and I wanted to create this crazy combinations that made sense in my mind in terms of balance, texture, color, and create something that was not out there. One of the things that I was seeking to do when I started Beyond Sushi is to do something that is my own, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was always the motive behind that. I wanted to create. Even now, it's the motive. But I wanted to create something that I can take credit for, not that I just made a better version of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I wanted to make something that is mine, and that was what Beyond Sushi was back in the day. Um, Today is a little bit different. You got to evolve, like I said in the beginning, and over time, all the items that are in Beyond Sushi today and in the other restaurants, in a way, recreate dishes that you're used to. Part of the reason for that is the transformation of the community of plant-based eaters and around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The community has expanded, and a lot of these people that enter the community or are plant-based are people that were not before, and we tend to eat with our memories
Right.
and traditions. And I figured out that, or not figured out, I was shown the way by other people because I saw other people creating not the greatest food, just imitating other food and having great success. And I looked at it and I said, well, this is the future and I can do this better.
Mm-hmm.
So let me do this better. And that's what I did.
How did you get the idea to start Beyond Sushi?
Beyond Sushi was an idea that came up in our catering company. I was the executive chef and basically the manager of my dad's catering company. He moved out to Israel for a year and a half, and he left me with the catering company after I finished my culinary school. And he left me with the company for a year and a half. And I was 24, and I never worked under any other chef. So I feel like I was never boxed into a place where, okay, this is how you do it. This is
Mm-hmm.
what you do. And it left me loose to use my imagination of what's going to work. We used to do a sushi station. We got a request for a vegetarian sushi. So I said, okay, let's make it interesting. And I did black rice and I did 6-grain rice. And I took whatever vegetables we had in the fridge and I put together combinations that made sense back then. And the reaction was spectacular. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The reaction was over the top. And my wife, now my co-worker at the time, said, hey, we should do something with this. And I said, okay, start working on it. And Tali is a very persistent person.
Mm-hmm.
She wants something, she's gonna get it. So she made sure that yeah, it's very good in business, but at home, I don't know. It's good. It's good there too. So, yeah. So she made sure that we are gonna go to the first ever vegetarian food festival in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and introduce this thing that I just made up on the day before. And I said, okay, well, let's try it out. And we went out and we got a booth. And we were the new kids on the block, and we did this booth. And in maybe 50 minutes or an hour, I sold out.
Hmm.
So we looked at each other and we said, okay, there's something going on over here. So we started using it in our sushi stations, and because I had the liberty to do whatever I wanted with that company. And this is 2008, 2009, where everything is falling apart. We were being very successful with this. And we started playing with it and using it and seeing reaction and refining the recipe. And the next year I went again to the New York Vegetarian Food Festival, and I set the number of material that we're going to bring 10 times of what we did the year before, because I knew that, okay, I want to be left over with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we sold out again. So I was like, okay, well, we got to do something about this. And my father at the time said, no, what do you think? It's easy and blah, blah, blah. And his wife, which was in the business, said, there's no way, you're not going to be successful with it, and whatever. And I said to my dad, listen, I can't. I got to do my own thing. We got to separate, and I got to open my own thing, and I want to do this. So he said, okay, well, you got money to do this? And I said, yeah, I have. And he helped me build my first location. While I was working, I didn't have really a lot of time to prepare for it. And I put the menu together, and I opened my first location at 14th Street in July 1, 2012. And it was a journey, because from the first day I opened, I got a nice buzz. I was on Hell's Kitchen right before it, and I got a nice buzz, but I was very new to the business. I was left with like $1,000 in my bank account. Me and then one guy don't know what we're doing. So it was interesting. I have kind of a Cinderella story, I knew that I'm gonna be successful because I'm gonna work hard for it, but I didn't know what I was doing. I definitely didn't know what I was doing. I was just going at it, And that's why the evolution is very important. It came along afterwards with turning it vegan and expanding, and 10 months after taking another location, and a year after taking another location, and going broke again and taking more and more and more until we ended up here.
Now, how does that make you feel when people are against you? Well, not maybe against you, but discouraging you, and you still succeed?
I feel like I need fuel. Okay? I have this thing. I need fuel to run and run hard, and that gives me fuel. Today, I don't have that as much, and I don't need it as much because I can create my own by pushing myself to certain points, or pushing certain buttons for myself. But back then, that I needed that. I needed that to move me and to show that I'm able to do it, not only to them, but to myself. Today, it's more for myself. But it was a thing. It was a thing for me. I needed that fuel to go and go get it. And that's that. Today I get a lot of love, and I appreciate it, and I create my own fuels.
How has the restaurant scene changed in New York City since the pandemic?
A lot of closures,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, a lot of business. Very sad. Um, there's a lot of empty spots. I took a very different approach than most people. You know, the pandemic set its own set of challenges where people did a lot of to go and thought that that's the future, that people are just going to order to their house and nobody's going to come out and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had a different vision. I right away thought that to go is dead because there is no offices and there is no crowds and there is not a massive amount of people that go through your door every day. And the amount of crowd that we have is going to be limited. And how can I capitalize on one concept when I have 7 of them, right? How we have a limited amount of people. They're not going to all go to Beyond Sushi. It's not going to be sustainable to hold 7 concepts of the same thing and try to run all of them and make enough money in all of them to sustain a company. So I sat down when I never stopped working. So I always every day I came to the office, and the first 3 days were hard, and I was pulling my hair out, and I'm losing millions of dollars.
Mm.
But after 3 days, I got into my head, calmed myself down, and I started thinking, what am I going to do? And that's the day I started writing my plan. It's a famous plan here in our company, but it's a plan that I wrote for the coming years. And the moment I had the chance, I executed it. It's kind of sad because I had that chance to do it where other people had to close their restaurants. So I took the first restaurant, which was Willow, in November 2020, in the middle of there's no one in the street,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm signing for a restaurant. It was more of like, okay, this is the plan, and it's a Hail Mary right now, and it's gonna work. We're gonna be good, but if the more chances that it's not gonna work, because there was I calculated it's like 70% no, 30% yes back then. But as soon as I did, and I put it out into the world, and I'm gonna open a restaurant where everybody was closing and there was so gloom and doom, and the world is coming to an end, and when are we gonna go back, and this vaccine or that vaccine and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I put it out to the world, I saw the excitement. It was insane, right? And I feel like people needed something to get excited about back then, at least, right? And I started feeling better about it. And I went on with with my hunch that this is going to be the next thing. And sit down in restaurants and full service is what people are going to look for after all this mess is done. And I went with it. And we started growing the company. We started reopening places, and I hard negotiated with my other landlords that I had locations with. I had to close 3 smaller locations with my new plans. My original location, Chelsea Market and Pine Street. But I added bigger locations, which was Willow, a whole new concept, and Coletta, that was the latest one. And in the process to add another one now.
Yeah, I read you have a few other concepts in the works, like a Spanish tapas, Greek, Mexican, an Israeli Mediterranean concept. When might we see these?
I took that time that everybody was at home and worrying about the virus. I used to be here with my head chef, me and him, and in our commissary, in our test kitchen, and all we were doing is just cooking. You know, we were cooking, and I was writing, and I was writing, and we were cooking, and I was writing, and we were cooking. So we decided to go with Willow first, but I have a list of concepts that are made, named, menus, tested, everything. So as soon as I find places, I open them. Right. So Coletta was the one that I found now, and it was an Italian restaurant that was abandoned, and I took it and I fixed it. My sister is an interior designer. She's the designer for the company, so she helped me with that. I do some of the construction on the side, so I did some of that, and we put together a restaurant. And then now I'm working on another one. Hopefully, it's gonna come into life, and still debating if it's gonna be Greek or North African. We'll see.
Now, by North African, does that mean some of your Moroccan roots?
Exactly. I grew up on this food, and for me to take that and make it plant-based will be, for me, the ultimate challenge. Taking Italian, it's a cuisine that I didn't necessarily know before, and transforming it to what I think a plant-based Italian should be is easier because I'm not attached. This is going to be the ultimate challenge for me. Not even sushi is a challenge in that sense, as much as North Africa.
Now, what are some of the staples of North African food?
In terms of grains, so couscous and fricassee, and we do amazing tagines. There's chicken with preserved lemons, or lamb, and again, I'm saying lamb, but there's many substitutes today that can be there. 2 kebabs, 2 amazing meze salads, fresh bread, whether it comes from a taboon or you can make it in a pizza oven. It depends on the space itself. Mm-hmm. In this particular space, I got a few items that would help me create that. It was a Lebanese restaurant. Hopefully, I can move it forward. Whether it's Greek or that one, I still haven't decided. The only thing I want to do Greek is because there is none in New York, and that would be the first plant-based Greek, like full service. So we're working on that.
Now, where did you get the courage to start Beyond Sushi and your project in general?
I always have a hopeful outlook on things. I see the future 95% of the times brighter than the past. I've rare situations and hard situations that I've encountered that threw me off, and I could see the future a little bit different. I went through a few periods in my life that gave me an outlook on life that is a bit more clear in the terms of being scared of life. Going through the army and fighting and being in infantry and basically being in war and seeing the fragile gift that we have and how fast it could go and how fragile we are, I tend not to think about, I tend not to worry, let's say, not be scared about life too much. It's here, we're once. I want to make the best out of it. You know?
Now, what's one thing that's really exciting for you right now in your life or your project?
The biggest thing that is, if I look internally into our business, it's what we were able to build and how much people this thing supports or gives a purpose to livelihood, work. We're 130 strong, and I intend to, or at least in my plan, to double this company by 2025. And it's a big motivation that I have. And the other thing is the purpose and the creation part is always been a big drive of mine. Right? Last year I told my wife I'm going to open Coletta, but we just had a baby and we just had this. But I need something. I need that. That's my fuel today. The creation is what makes me wake up in the morning. You know, makes me happy. Makes me make the sacrifices that I make. Put in the 60 hours, 70 hours a week into this thing that we built. It's very rewarding. Not the, oh yeah, you make great food. The fact that I can cook whatever I want, whenever I want, it's very rewarding for me, you know. And I always say the excitement of service for me is like a drug, you know. I need it. I like it. I mean, it's rough and it's tough and whatever not, but I like it better than sitting on the beach.
City Roots Hospitality and Catering is the name of your company. How is the catering doing?
So that was a surprise for me. I mean, I came from catering, and I always advocated that we do catering, but it's it's never it's never like been the thing. Today, or in the past year or so, the amount of wedding requests, the amount of, because we expanded on it, and we pull all the knowledge and all the information that we have from all the restaurants, and that's how we are able to produce a very exciting menus and pretty much very easily in an affordable way. And we've done already 15 weddings this year, and we got another 15 till the end of the year. And I'm talking big weddings, 250, 350, and it's all vegan. It's cool because you bring people that are not necessarily would go to a plant-based restaurant, or they're basically forced to try it, and the reaction that you get from that, and when they do, it's a good reaction, is amazing. It's very satisfying because you get real reaction. It's not like they chose to go there. This is what you have tonight, and the reaction is insane. It's really fun.
What is it about vegan food that makes you so passionate?
First of all, before anything, it's because it's compassionate. Because I am not hurting anyone while I'm doing it. I'm only helping. The second thing, though, the challenge has always been a big thing for me. I don't know why I make things harder for myself, just to find the best way to make it easier afterwards. But that's how it worked, and that's how I evolved over time. And with plant-based, you have a lot of challenges to recreate or create or produce good quality food. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it's a work that you have to put in so you can get a good product. You know? It's getting easier though. We're getting a lot of products. There is a lot of products out there. I just reached out to a company that makes steaks plant-based, and hopefully I can get them to work with me, and I can introduce them to the market.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, what cookbook, book, or maybe documentary have you gifted or recommended to someone transitioning to a plant-based diet?
I think that there's many people that in this world that do great things. The one that never stopped to amaze me is someone that I know very well. He's a chef at LA. His name is Tali. He's not necessarily Israeli, but we have a funny connection because my grandma was his au pair throughout his childhood, and he's one of the leading chefs in the U.S. In vegan food, and he's been in it forever. So his latest book is very inspiring, and his recipes are pretty easy. And anyone that really wants to get into or try out good recipes and see that vegan or plant-based food is not something that you should alienate in any way, should get that book.
So your grandmother it's Tal Ronin, right?
Yeah.
Crossroads Kitchen?
Yeah. Yeah.
She was his au pair.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. Yeah. We're like family. I mean, and I never thought that I would be in this world, right? And it's funny because we talk about her food all the time. He gets a lot of inspiration from when he was, with her when he was young, and it's it's a small world, I guess. That's how it works.
It is a small world. Finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
Felt good before I was vegan because I didn't know. So good is the word. I didn't know any better. But I feel whole, I guess, after I became vegan.
So good and whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I didn't feel bad at any part, but this is made me feel better. So complete, I guess. Oh.
Such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What is the best way for people to follow you on Instagram, the web, and go to your restaurants?
So the best way is Instagram. We're very visible over there. Beyond Sushi NYC is our main account. Then we have Willow, New York, and Coletta NYC, and Chef Guy Vaknin. We put almost all of our announcements over there. Follow us. There's great promotions this month. I'm doing 10-course promotional meal for 10 couples that will be selected for our 10-year anniversary, which is a cool thing that is happening right now, but we always have things going on over there. So feel free to see what we do over there.
Thanks again, Guy, for being on Plant Your Seed.
Thank you.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.